And what's up? Welcome in. It is GC Live Thursday episode of the show. Wes Mitchell joined, as you see right there, by my good buddy Collyn Taylor. We are rotating through the entire GC crew. Collyn is going to talk, as he always does, football, baseball, some basketball. We got everything to cover today. Collyn covers pretty much every single sport on Gamecock Central. Before we get to that, though, got to tell you about my good buddy Clint Hammond. He is the presenting sponsor of GC Live. Check him out, ClintHammond.com, 803-771-6933. You can see Clint's smiling face right here on the screen if you're on the YouTube version of the show. 71597 is the NMLS number. Collyn, appreciate you hopping on, man. I will not do you like Yuva and just start throwing up. When I saw that random picture of Clint we have there, I was like, man, I should have brought in some random Collyn picks. Dude, y'all have had quite a Twitter battle going on as of late. I know you've always had a Twitter battle going, but I feel like the intensity has ramped up here lately, huh?
See, the only drawback is I was in middle school when Facebook started really getting popular. And so middle schoolers, everyone regrets being in middle school generally at times. So the photos of me from middle school are obviously saved on Facebook. So he has a little bit more ammunition. But as the weather warms up and South Carolina fans start feeling really good about football and baseball kicking off, puts people in a good mood. So we're ready to kind of get it going a little bit more. And I've enjoyed it only because I think I'm winning. So I really like where things stand right now.
Well, we probably need to maybe contact the Yuva family. And
his dad would definitely give me some ammunition if I contact.
Yeah, I think he may have won the battle on a couple of those, I must say. But I imagine there's some ammo out there that you could just probably end this thing with. I would think so. Maybe you just got to dig a little bit deeper on that, and because I get the feeling that Mike's mom and dad would love the opportunity to help you win this thing.
Oh, 100%. I can't wait. I might have to get a scanner for the sole purpose of like if they mailed me just like their old family photo albums to scan it in and be ready to go for it.
Yeah. So if y'all want to go check that out at Collyn Taylor on Twitter, Mike, I think _Yuva on Twitter, they're having a Twitter war that is ongoing. Probably will never end.
No.
But yeah, Collyn, we appreciate you taking the time, man. So I guess let's start with the least newsy thing, actually, but maybe the most interesting thing from today, just because it's football and there's not really a heck of a lot else going on so far today. But under the lights, spring game under the lights. I think it's a good idea, man. I think we've seen the spring game. It was kind of weird that under Will Muschamp, some years the spring game was like a big deal. Like when he first got here, it felt like there was at least some effort to make the spring game matter a bit. Then as it sort of progressed, there were lots of times where I felt like spring game was just like an afterthought, didn't really, it wasn't really promoted much. It wasn't even that there wasn't anything extra involved. It was just that literally it was like, well, here's the spring game. Come on out.
It was practice number 15. That's all it was.
Yeah, it did not feel, and even Spurrier, there were times I feel like going way back when it was kind of a big deal with Spurrier. Then there were times when it wasn't. This is cool. There, for those who haven't seen, there's a concert. Patrick Davis is playing. Baseball game is that afternoon, right, Collyn?
I think 1 o'clock.
So 1 o'clock first pitch there. Under the lights, there's a 5K going on. There'll be some drinking going on. They're going to be serving beer in the stadium, just like a regular game as well. So, yeah, your thoughts, man, on this? I guess it's a marketing decision by South Carolina to make it a night game.
Makes my day personally a little bit more hectic covering baseball than bouncing over, but I think it's incredibly smart. You have such this wave of momentum going from winning almost called it the Belk Bowl, winning the Duke's Mayo Bowl, with Rattler, with this recruiting class, with everything that's involved with it. You have so much momentum that you need to take advantage of it. You need to bottle it and put it towards other things and generate some excitement. And I think this is a big way to do it. And a lot of these programs now are treating the spring game like a celebration, like a party, and it works. It's really cool for the fans to be able to go out and fans who clamor for night games all year to go out and have a night spring game, to be able to enjoy, their beverage of choice, tailgating for a really long time. And it's really cool. And I think that it's going to be interesting for recruiting. I think it's a really big recruiting sell to have guys. I believe that they could visit for the spring game. Guys come in and get a little bit of a different experience. I know Georgia's done big things like this in the past. I remember being in Athens for a baseball series the year they had Ludacris play. So Matt Connolly and I almost went to the Georgia spring game just for the sole purpose of seeing a Ludacris halftime show. We did not.
I'm kind of disappointed, honestly, that you did.
Well, the way it worked was like we would had to have got down there at like noon, and the baseball game wasn't until like 6. So it was like, are we really going to go watch a 30-minute Ludacris show and then just have nothing to do for like 3 hours? So that was something, but the excitement around it, that's the point I was trying to make, is that all these big programs have celebrations, have parties involved with their spring games, and South Carolina's doing it. I think it's a really, really, really smart decision on a lot of different fronts.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see how it maybe grows, how it gets tweaked. How I've said for a couple of years now, the food truck market has become such a big thing in Columbia. It's even bigger in some other cities, but it's that the food truck market here has grown a ton in the last, maybe 10 years. Like, I mean, it's a thing now. So, I think you implement that. I don't know, man, some different like beer garden type stuff.
Pop-up beer garden
like there's some fun stuff you can do that these days is much, I will say it like this, it's much more easy to implement those things now than it probably was 10 years ago, because it just wasn't a thing. Now you see a different food truck parked, all over the place in Columbia now. So there are some options out there for you. And let's be honest, if you want to look at it from just the football side, this was already going to be I would say definitely the most attended spring game in some time, just because people are ready to lay eyes on Spencer Rattler and see what that looks like. And there's such excitement building off the bowl game. It makes sense to sort of, I hate to use this terminology. It makes sense to kind of go all in on this year's spring game, because you have some organic excitement built up. If this was all just manufactured excitement, it might be different, but you have some organic excitement. So now you sort of, I think that's when you add in what I would call manufactured excitement, where you're trying to do some, I say gimmick, but not in a negative way. You're just trying to capitalize on the momentum that you already have, I think.
Yeah. And let's be honest here. If this was, I'm not disparaging the guy, but if this was coming off the 4-8 year for Muschamp, and there's just not a lot of excitement around the program, and you're having it at night and doing all this, it would feel like square peg going into a round hole. Now it's like, well, now it makes sense. Fans want to get out there and see Spencer Rattler. Fans want to get out there and kind of bask in still this you haven't played a game on the 22 schedule yet. Bask in just the enjoyment of winning the offseason and feeling good about where the direction of the program and all this stuff. So yeah, it makes sense to have all the things around it and to make this a big deal, because not only does it help the fan base enjoy South Carolina football, but it also, like I said, with recruiting, spring games are supposed to stand out, because it is a lot of people take, this is practice number 15. You have to stand out a little bit. Will Muschamp wanted to have it earlier in the year to not conflict with any other spring games. And now it's a little bit different. Now you get a production. Now you get the night game, the fireworks, the concert, I think they're calling it Big Gamecock Weekend or whatever it is. They're selling out for it, like in the best way possible. And I think that that's important. If this program wants to continue to move forward, there has to be traditions like this. There has to be things that you do to stand out from, the other schools that you're recruiting against first and foremost, and for the fan base to really latch on to. And I think this is a way to do kind of all of those things wrapped into one.
No doubt, man. So Gamecock Central will, of course, be there. Mike Uva will be out there probably tailgating among the fans.
Yeah, he'll be in the frat lots handing out Bojangles gift cards is what he'll be doing.
Yes, he will still have Bojangles cards left. I promise you. Yeah. He's got 1,000 of them, I think. Yeah. I mean,
gift cards.
The man is on brand. He was on here yesterday. What was he wearing? Bojangles shirt, of course. Just kidding, buddy. We love you, Mikey. So as we were talking, some new, I guess probably it would fall in the same category. A little bit of information coming out. Gamecocks women's basketball announcing that College Game Day, Collyn, will be on campus at South Carolina on February 20th at noon. South Carolina, Tennessee is at 1 p.m. So Dawn Staley and the women's basketball team getting the game day treatment. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, to the winner, to the victor go the spoils, right? South Carolina has been the class of women's basketball, and I mean basketball in general for the last 6-7 years. You deserve a chance like this. You deserve an opportunity to put your fan base on display, put your fan base in front of a national TV audience. And I don't know if there's another women's basketball program in the country that's hosted College Game Day. I could be wrong off the top of my head, but pretty dang sweet if you're Dawn Staley, and all you have to do now in recruiting is flip on the tape and say that's only happened in Columbia, South Carolina. And that's really cool. And the game itself, Tennessee scuffled some of late, but 2 weeks ago that looked like winner would win the SEC regular season crown. So still a massive game and a chance for South Carolina to put on in front of a national audience and I think submit Aaliyah Boston's candidacy to be National Player of the Year.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I didn't know either. I was going to ask if you knew if that was
right.
I mean, how often a women's basketball program has gotten that type of national ESPN treatment. Pretty special, and I guarantee the fans will be out, man. That program has such great support anyway, but add in the game day and just the novelty of it being, the first time they've been here for South Carolina women's basketball will be a pretty special scene in 10 days at Colonial Life Arena. Let's talk some on field and on court and all those things, sports as well. The news, I tell you what, man, the news, I was happy, I guess, for the guys that got invited to the NFL Combine, but Jalen Foster, I get it. He's not projected to be a third, top 3, top 4 round pick, I guess. But you would think, and I know stats don't translate necessarily to the NFL. But, man, you would think if you're an SEC starter, All-American, the year he had, the production he had, you would think that you'd had a pretty good chance of sneaking in to the draft combine. Was disappointed. Frankly, I was just personally disappointed for him because he comes across as such a good, genuine dude. Has obviously worked so hard to get to where he was this year, and he'll have his opportunities, of course, with pro day and all that stuff. But were you surprised at that, or not really?
Not as much as other people were. Just I know a lot of people got upset with him not being on Pro Football Focus's list and looking at some of the advanced numbers. He wasn't like it was still good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like
they weren't as high on him.
Right. Yeah, and so for that reason, I wasn't overly shocked knowing just kind of what his draft stock was. But when you start listing off all these qualifications, I mean, SEC starter on a team that won a bowl game, not only went to a bowl game, but won a bowl game on one of the best pass defenses in the league and by proxy the country. Then you factor in the All-American nature of it and the fact that he was in position to, I think, have 5 or 6 interceptions. That stuff makes you go, wow, I can't believe that dude didn't get at least an invite to it. So on one hand, I am a little shocked, and on the other, I can understand why he didn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the and PFF, if you look just even game by game,
Hmm.
their system, I guess you would say, of grading was never quite as high on him as
Right.
it would appear from the just like traditional stats. Now, that said, you look at what he meant to that secondary. Um,
Yeah.
I'll always feel like the truth sort of is somewhere in the middle. Like I don't look at PFF as being like, oh, that grade
Right.
is the
It's not.
end all be all of how good of a player you are. Is there merit to it though? Yeah, of
Mhm.
course there is. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of players in the country, right? So
Right.
you're talking about whittling it down to a very select few, but still, I mean, maybe it is more of a personal thing for me, but it would have been,
Oh, yeah, you root for a guy like that.
yeah,
I'm
you
bummed
got to
out for
root
him
for Jalen.
myself. Yeah, but
So,
I understand that.
um, Zaquandre White goes, Kevin Harris goes. We knew JJ Anybari, that was a given, but Zaquandre, that's a guy that prior to the season, you probably wouldn't have projected that, and he played his way into it. So it's not even a thing like with Foster where it's like, well, maybe they kind of already had an idea of who was going to go.
Mhm.
White played his way into it, and that's a big deal for him. I think, Colin. I was unsure if he would get that invite, and now he gets to uh, show what he can do on a little bit bigger stage. Obviously,
Yeah, absolutely, and he's a guy probably right now is, day 3 somewhere probably in the draft big boards on scouting. You just don't know with him, but now gives a chance. Obviously, he's going to be able to do things at South Carolina's pro day in a couple weeks, but now he has a chance to go out there in front of GMs and scouts and the big boys of in the NFL and put up those testing numbers, show some of what he's able to do. He was a really great running back for South Carolina, but him in the pass game, they used him a lot in the screens and putting him in the open field, and he was great there. So now you get a chance to show that a little bit, show some of your explosiveness, your speed, your 40 time, all the stuff they're going to put you through. So I think it's a big chance for him to elevate his stock to maybe a late day 2, early day 3 kind of player, and the draft or the combine is a huge part of that for him.
well, and this is, I think, he's a guy I've thought might be that player that doesn't really like most people out of South Carolina, outside of the South Carolina bubble,
Hmm.
maybe don't necessarily know a lot about him, but if he finds the right opportunity, we may sit here 5 or 6 years from now and he's still in the league and
Right.
he's willing to give so much on special teams. I think that maybe gives him a little bit of an edge. All the guys that have that energy and that drive to help in that area, sometimes it's that little, the margin for error is so small
Right.
that maybe that helps. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk some baseball, some men's basketball. Before we get to baseball, Colin, for last week's shows and this week's shows, we've also been sponsored by Home Field Apparel. Did you get your home field in the mail?
I did. I got my home field. I got the one. I'm looking at the graphic now. I got the one where Cocky looks like he's headed into a bar fight, and it says Spurs up.
Okay.
Yeah, right down there in the bottom. Comfortable as all get out. I have a few different home field shirts, or I bought from home field before for other schools. So fantastic brand. The hashtag good brand, I believe, is what they call themselves, and I'm eyeing the fighting Gamecocks hoodie at one point, maybe soon when next paycheck clears.
That thing,
That's sweet.
I feel like that was the most just complete, like, what do you call it, straw poll, like,
Yeah.
not technical poll at all. It seemed like that hoodie was maybe the most popular thing I heard people talking about. Like, I heard several people be like, that thing is what I want. And I guess Gamecock fans, you broke the system for a moment, like hitting
Good.
the buy button so fast. So,
Yeah. The Gamecock baseball shirt's pretty sweet.
yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at, I mean, just Bar Fat Cocky is fantastic. The women's basketball one's great. And then I think that Gamecock baseball t-shirt might be finding a spot somewhere soon in the wardrobe.
Definitely, man. So homefieldapparel.com. Use code GamecockCentral. You'll get 15% off your first order. So that means not every order, your first order. So go ahead and like rack up, I don't know, $100, $200 worth of stuff and take advantage of that. But it's a very soft shirt. That was what
They're really, really
very
good.
comfortable.
Yeah. I can't endorse it enough. I got a Michigan shirt for Christmas, so I've worn that I wore that for their playoff game. So I don't know when the next time I'm going to break that one out might be, but
Yeah.
really comfortable. My mom has a Virginia Tech hoodie that she loves to no end, so the good brand stays good.
Definitely, man. So we appreciate Home Field letting us help share the news about their new line with South Carolina. And again, Gamecock Central is the code you can use, 15% off your first order. Baseball season is upon us. Collyn, first of all, are you ready, man? Are you prepared? Are you mentally ready for the grind?
It doesn't feel like it's what's today, the 10th. It doesn't feel like it's 8 days away. I guess goodness, tomorrow will be a week before opening day. That makes my chest get tight a little bit, knowing that hoops is finishing up and football spring's cranking up, and then baseball. But I'm excited, man. This is a good group, and I don't know what they might be or what they'll turn into over the course of the next 3-4 months, but it's a fun group, and they got some pieces to be interesting at least this year.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's say Gamecock fan is listening or watching, and they're a baseball fan, but they haven't dialed in yet. I think a lot of people it takes you kind of have your hardcore fans, in my opinion. Then you have your next sort of level where when the season starts, they're all in, they're going to pay attention, they're going to pull for the team, they're going to go to some games, but they just haven't quite locked in to everything yet. If you can speak to that fan for a moment, give us that sort of broad, I guess somewhat broad, but with insight overview of what you've witnessed, what you've observed so far about this team as far as expectations going into this new season in 8 days.
Yeah, this is a team with talent, with enough talent to make the postseason. Without a doubt, I feel like that should be the expectation. I mean, you are South Carolina baseball, like that is no doubt the expectation is to make the postseason. If all the pieces play like they're supposed to, like you brought them in, and you stay healthy, then this is a team that has a chance to not only win games in the postseason, but potentially host a regional. And you just don't know at this time of the year. You're having to rely on. I think I did the math yesterday. They have 18 newcomers between D1 transfers, JUCO guys, and freshmen. So if you're a casual fan, bring your program, print out the roster to match numbers with names, and because there's a lot of new faces on this team, but they have some frontline guys. You have your Will Sanders coming off a freshman All-American year, Julian Bosnick, who turned down a bunch of money to come back to school and not go pro and be one of your two frontline starters. Andrew Eister's back, Garnet Trust member Andrew Eister. You have Braylon Wimmer, who's shown promise. You've had Josiah Seitler coming into his second full season as a starter. So you have some pieces that are returning, and then you also have some talented transfers coming in, some talented freshmen coming in that are going to make an impact. And if all those pieces come together offensively and come together on the pitching staff side of things, this is a team that has a chance to not only make the postseason, but win some games, but far too many unknowns. I joked yesterday after one of the scrimmages that I've watched this team from the fall and through the first, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks of scrimmages, and I still don't know a whole lot about it. And I'm around this team a bunch. So a lot of unknowns going around with the baseball team right now.
Well, man, South Carolina is always going to have some level of talent. Like they're always going to be a talented team. I think the question is these days always going to be, how is it when you compare it to the rest of an SEC that just even when like Ray Tanner and those groups were really getting going, you just didn't have the support throughout the league
Right.
by other programs that you do now. So that the competition, I mean, it's much like football in that you can be the literal number 15 team in the country, and you might be like middle of the pack, or worse, depending on the year within your own conference. So I think I mean, that certainly makes it difficult on somebody like Mark Kingston. It certainly, the expectations, I think the expectations here still remain what they've been for a long time. And that's that South Carolina baseball should win and should compete for Omaha.
Yeah.
And you're playing in a conference where you can get humbled very, very quickly. And then, as you just expressed, you don't know, you think even the staff, I bet the staff really doesn't, the coaching staff probably doesn't completely know what to expect once they put these guys out onto the field for the first time against SEC competition, like together. You think, you hope, you watch. Practice does not equal games.
No, and you can show flashes and be, right now Kate Austin's looked really good. Redshirt freshman from Chapin. Shout out District Lexington, Richland District 5. He's a guy that's looked really good in spring leading up to the season, and he's going to pitch big innings for South Carolina in some capacity, whether that's as a starter, whether that's a key bullpen piece. But you just don't know until he gets out there. And, I've seen a lot of guys have great, preseasons, and all of a sudden the season comes and they falter or injuries pop up. So I don't know if this pitching staff, I know this pitching staff doesn't have necessarily the depth that last year's did, where you go, okay, well, Thomas Farr just pitched. We got Brandon Jordan. He just pitched. Okay, Brett Carey. Okay, here's Will Sanders. Here's Julian Bosnick. Here's Danny Lloyd. Here's, Andy Peters. They don't have that, but they have some pieces that if you can manage it correctly and get these guys to the level of being able to pitch consistently, you're good. But you never know that until you're lining up against Clemson, against Texas, against Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida, Georgia. They, got to play A&M this year on the road. Until then, you just don't know.
Several new pieces to this coaching staff. I know we're still preseason. We'll all find out when the games start, but I'll ask it, I guess, very generally. What impact have you seen from them so far, just from a sense of, is there anything in particular or a couple of things in particular you've picked up that either on the pitching side or the hitting side that these new coaches have tried to focus on or tried to implement? Any major changes? I mean, obviously, I think we all know, and I was reading your article today, on the offensive approach side, there has to be less strikeouts. Like that's like maybe priority number one for the entire offseason, I would think, from the outside looking in. But what are the specific changes you've noticed that these guys are implementing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more holistic offense. It's not going to be one. We've seen, going back to 2019, this is a South Carolina team that wanted to live off, cranking the ball 350, 400 feet for home runs. And when the ball's flying, that's fantastic. That was an offense that could be feared, but when they had to get a bunt down or runner at third less than one out, hit a ball to the outfield and get a fly ball to get the guy in, they didn't do it enough. And, they were, I think, 5th in the league in strikeouts, but a lot of those happened with guys on. They struggled in situational hitting. So the emphasis from Chad Kaye, who was the engineer of Southern Miss's really good offenses in the 2000s and spent the last couple of years at A&M, it's body control, it's bat path, it's approach, it's understanding when to swing and when not to swing, and just the overall calm approach to two-strike hitting, to hitting in a full count, hitting with 2 outs, hitting with a guy at second and no one out. Things like that they really needed to improve on. That's been the focus, and Chad's done a really good job. I don't think the offense is where he or South Carolina wants for the most part. It never is on February 10th, but there's been progress. At least I've seen the approach has been a lot better. I think they're walking more through the preseason. than I remember in years past. So there's improvements being made. I definitely think so. And now it's just a matter of, can it continue against 95, 96 miles an hour when you're facing, these elite arms that you're going to have to face not only week in and week out in the league, but day in and day out in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes we, fans, media, whoever, if you are locked in on one team, which if you're a fan out there, you watch South Carolina versus whoever they're playing most of the time. You're not dialing in on Florida and LSU more than likely, unless you're just a super hardcore fan. My point being, these Friday guys you face in this league, they're going to make a lot of people look bad. More often than not. So it's not that you're ever going to just completely cut down on those things. You're going to have some poor offensive performances, and a lot of times it's just because the caliber of the guy you're facing. I think for South Carolina, it just felt like, I remember thinking the beginning part of last year when South Carolina was facing lesser competition, the offense looked like pretty good, and they were bashing the ball all over the place. Well, when it sort of evened out and the competition jumped up, the strikeouts just rose to an extent that it's not sustainable as far as being successful in offense, I think. And I don't know about you, Collyn. I personally sort of look at that stuff. It's kind of a sliding scale. Like you don't want it to go so far this way that your guys aren't hitting for power at all. Like power is a big part of scoring runs, especially in modern baseball, man.
And it's Major League Baseball. Let's be honest. South Carolina's,
you got to be able to bash still, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And they're going to hit. They got dudes who can hit home runs. I think Andrew Eyster is a guy that has hit for a lot of power, had double-digit home runs last year. You're bringing back Braylon Wimmer, who I think if he didn't have double digits, had pretty darn close to double-digit home runs, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range. Seitler can hit for power. Trying to go through the list. Carson Hornung is a guy that I think is going to hit for some power, a freshman lefty. Talmadge LaCroix, another guy who can hit for some power. He's the only one with multiple home runs this preseason. So there's some pieces there that can hit for power, but you also need to have those contact guys. Your Michael Braswell's, who's more than likely going to be your starting shortstop. Your Brant Belks, your Kyle Maddens, your Matt Hogans or Evan Stones of the world. So you're going to need those guys, and I think they have them. It's just a matter of, can they do it? Can they hit for average and get on base for, the power guys to, instead of solo shots, it's a 2 or 3 run homer.
Let's go out to our chat line here. And by the way, we actually have a new chat line sponsor that I'm going to tell you all about in a moment. But first, let's hit Kyle's question. He wants to know, with Sanders and Bosnick now in the starting roles, those guys are Friday and Saturday, but we don't know what order yet. Is that right, Collyn? Or
not yet? Sanders has pitched better in the preseason than Bosnick has, but we don't know officially.
Okay, so those will be 1 and 2 in some order. Kyle wants to know who are the candidates to take over the closing role. And I'll also go ahead and throw in, is it locked in who the Sunday guy is going to be, or is that still up in the air as well, Collyn?
Both are kind of up in the air right now. I know it's probably a cop-out answer, but James Hicks is probably your leading candidate to be the Sunday guy. At least he was entering the preseason, and he had a really good day on Saturday. So that's someone I'd probably if we're sitting here right now, James Hicks is probably that guy, a junior college pitcher who's 91, 92, 93 with a really good breaking ball, can throw 3 pitches. So that's something. And then for closer, Michael Esposito's been a guy that's been floated out there, a junior college lefty who's up to, 91, 92, will probably get up to 93, 94, potentially 95 on his fastball. That's a guy that I could potentially see doing that. Noah Hall, another one who I think will, for the 2018 South Carolina baseball fans, the Eddie Demarius role of middle relief, setup man, closer, however they need him to pitch. That guy. So he could do that. And honestly, Michael Braswell, who's going to be your starting shortstop more than likely, has been up to like 92 on the mound and looked really good out there doing it. I mean, he struck out Brant Belk and Andrew Eistert in Wednesday's scrimmage with a really good breaking ball. And it's not overpowering, but it's been deceptive. And, using him on the back end, you don't have to then play the weird game of if he comes in the seventh and he goes back to short, you lose your DH. And he could potentially be your closer at times this year. So they have a few options. I would think that the Espos, the Halls, and maybe a Braswell are your probably three candidates to close, and then Hicks, maybe a Hall, and maybe an Austin, maybe a Wes Sweat is your Sunday game. But I think Hicks is the clubhouse leader right now.
I'm glad you brought up Braswell. As a former middle infielder myself, give me a scouting report. I always like to know who the Gamecock shortstop is going to be. It sounds like that's going to be Braswell, but what can I expect? Does he compare to anybody in recent memory? I mean, it seems like the Gamecocks over the years, man, go all the way back to when I was in school, and Reese Havens was the shortstop. I mean, and even well before that, there's been a long line of some really good shortstops at this place. So give me the scouting report. What's the style of play here? Is he more of a hitter? Is he a defensive guy? Big arm, smooth glove. What can we expect, man? I need some detail on the shortstop.
He is smooth as hell. Like Michael Braswell is he's been really good. He's made, I don't think he's not had to make like one of those tough plays in the preseason yet, but every play that's hit to him, he's made. He's probably more offensive than some of the other shortstops we've seen over the recent memories. I mean, George Khalil was the most offensive player on the roster. Marcus Mooney, I don't think, was the most offensive player on the roster, but Braswell has good bat-the-ball skills, doesn't strike out a bunch, has a really good plate approach, turned down money to come to school, had a chance to go pro, never got drafted, but had a chance to go pro if he wanted to, but opted to come back. I really like his game. He's really good footwork. He's got a chance to be special if he continues to develop and play the way scouts and the coaching staff thinks he can play. He's got a chance to be a multi-year starter at South Carolina and be one of the better players on this team for however long he's at Carolina, because I don't think it'll be 4 years.
Yeah, and if he's in the running for closer possibly as well, I mean, does he have some swag about him, Collyn? Like, does he have a little
bit
edge?
Yeah, it's one of those dudes that you talk to and you're like, man, that was like the most genial, nice, like mild-mannered human being I've ever met. And then he's a grinder, man. Like, I know that's like stupid baseball cliche stuff, but he's just a dude that loves ball, and he's going to go out there and be really competitive with you. He likes to chirp. He likes to talk to his teammates, and he's what you want in a shortstop. And I was really high on him when South Carolina landed his commitment, when they signed him, when he opted to come to school. So him and the rest of this freshman hitter group has a chance to really come in and lay a foundation offensively that South Carolina hasn't had really in a couple years.
I like it. I'm on board. All right, he's my favorite player.
That's it. You and Colin Burgess,
Burgess. What was my nickname for Burgess last year?
He was like that dude from that ninja movie. Tum Tum. That's what it is.
Yes. Oh man. All right, we're gonna talk a little men's basketball, but first, Collyn, have you done your taxes yet, man?
I'm not done my taxes.
It's tax time. I got somebody for you. So, the folks, we've got a new sponsor for now. Really, probably for the rest of the year, but certainly for right now, I want to welcome our new sponsor, and that's the folks at Liberty Tax right here in Columbia, South Carolina area, 803-462-5576. Collyn, you can overcome your taxiety. You know what taxiety is? That's when you get that nervous feeling in your stomach about your taxes coming up. Maybe you don't know what to do. You don't know exactly how to make it all work. Just hit up the folks. They are Gamecock fans. My man, Larry Slaughter, right here in town. He's in Irmo, he's in Lexington, and he's at St. Andrews Road in Columbia, locally owned and operated. You can have virtual income tax prep if you don't want to go out in public, or local tax professionals in their offices right here. Again, Columbia, Lexington, or St. Andrews Road. Columbia, Irmo, Lexington. I want to thank them for coming on as a sponsor right here on the show. And for the rest of the show, you will be able to see their phone number. It is tax time, so it's great timing from Larry and those folks. So check it out, 803-462-5576. Again, want to thank Larry. We appreciate him for supporting the show here on GC Live. Collyn, men's basketball. I talked about this with Mike yesterday. I watched pretty much that entire game, and I went to bed that night thinking, if South Carolina played at the level that they did against Kentucky, like the level I just saw, that they would not be a 4-7?
4-7.
4-7 team in the SEC. I know how basketball is. It's up and down. It's roller coaster. Can you get up for each game, matchups, etc.? I know. But it's got to be frustrating for South Carolina fans out there, because you see those flashes, I feel like, from this team, but they just have not been able to quite put it all together with the consistency that is needed so far to win and put themselves in tournament contention.
Yeah, and it's not an apples to apples comparison, but you take the effort that they play with against Kentucky and put it there against Florida, probably win that game. And you're sitting at no worse than 5-6. You take that and apply it to the first half against Mississippi State, or the second half against Arkansas, or second half against Tennessee, and who knows, one of those three might go your way. And that's the frustrating part, is that this is not, I do not think this is a bad basketball team. I don't. I think this, it's a middle of the pack to upper lower of the pack SEC team right now, from a statistics standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. The problem is that they just don't put things together consistently enough. And I mean, when was the last time you saw them play a full 40 minutes of basketball, like good, consistent 40 minutes of basketball? And that's the frustrating part. They had a really good second half against Georgia, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. But other than that, it's just been kind of up and down, and a good half here, a good 10-minute stretch there. And I think that's what the frustrating part is that, yes, there are, I think, 7, 8, 9 new guys on the roster, but most of them are older. The guys that you're relying on have been in college for 3+ years. I'm going through their starting lineup right now. I mean, Jermaine Kusnar, 4th year at school, 3rd year playing. James Reese he's got no more eligibility after this year. I think he's been in college 5 or 6 years. Eric Stevenson, the same thing, except he has another year of eligibility left. Keyshawn Bryant's a senior. Wilden Zavek's a junior. Essentially a 2-year starter. So you're supposed to not be having these consistent drop-offs. You're supposed to have consistency, whether it's good or bad. And the frustrating part is you're not having enough consistency. And it's really hampered them of late, and especially on the offensive end, where they're ranking at or near the bottom in a lot of offensive categories.
So I don't know if we're quite at the point of having this conversation, but are you hearing an echo all of a sudden, by the way, Collyn, or is that just my end?
I'm good. I'm good. Just
Okay.
my laptop.
If y'all are out there hearing an echo, I apologize. But so Collyn, the conversation obviously at some point will be had about Frank's future at the end of the year. What needs to happen for these final few games? I won't put that on you as in like what needs to happen for him to stay, but what do you think needs to happen for fans to feel good about this season? I mean, I was on with Jay Phillips earlier this week, and he sort of said it like it is. You're getting to the point of the year where it's almost like you have to win the tournament, the SEC tournament, to make the big dance. And you just really can't see that happening. Like, I don't think mathematically you're quite there yet, but you're getting close to it. That's tough.
I would say, I mean, I don't think, I mean, you probably have to win. I think they got, goodness, I'm looking at this 11. They have 7 games left. I mean, you probably have to win 5 of your 7 to even feel comfortable about. And even winning 5 of your 7, I don't think necessarily puts you into the tournament. I think you have to win 5 of 7 and then win, a couple games in the tournament to feel good about your bubble chances. They just don't have the the numbers right now. Yeah, they're above 500, which is good overall in the season, but I'm looking at their metrics right now. They're 106th in the net, which isn't good enough for a bubble team. They're 108th in KenPom, 93rd in BPI. All these EPI, BPI, KPI numbers are just not good enough. And they're combined 4 and 8 in quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities with 1 quad 1 win. No real bad losses. I mean, their 2 quad 3 losses are to Princeton and Coastal, who are good teams this year. Both of those away from home. They're just, it's not a good enough resume right now. And even if you win 5 of your last 7 or whatever it looks like, depending on who you beat, it might not be good enough to even put you on the bubble. So that's the frustrating part, is that you've had opportunities you had 4 straight games against quad 1 opponents at A&M, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Kentucky, and you went 1 and 3, and you missed the Mississippi State game. Was winnable. The Tennessee game, you played them close for a half. Kentucky, you get better play from James Reese and Eric Stevenson combined, who went 1 of 10 from 3. You might win that game. Who knows how that shakes out? So that's the frustrating part, is that you've had opportunities to really put yourself into the conversation and position yourself well in the SEC, and you just haven't taken advantage of it.
Yeah. So what we said, 4 and 7 in SEC play. So even if you go 5 and 2, I'm not a math major, but 9 and 9.
You got to win 2 or 3 games in the league tournament to even feel comfortable about a bubble shot at that point. That's good enough for the NIT, but it's not good enough for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're just so far behind at that point, man. You're just fighting from behind. And that, Collyn, that seems like the conversation we've had many years lately, where it's like South Carolina is having to fight just to get in that bubble conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's where the frustration comes with the fan base. And that's the frustrating part since that, I know people talk about the Final Four run and all that, but losing so much that you did the year after, it would have been hard to make the tournament again in 17-18. But I mean, you had chances. I mean, you started 4-0 in league play in 18-19, but you lost at Wyoming. You lost to Stony Brook at home. You had these bad non-con losses that you go 11-7 in the league, and you still don't even make the NIT. So, that's the frustrating part. And then 2020, you rattle off these great wins at Clemson, at Virginia, and then lose to Stetson. You go 10-8 in the league with a late loss at Vanderbilt to really knock your bubble chances. And who knows what would have happened in the SEC tournament that got canceled, but that was an NIT team that year at worst. So that's the frustrating part for South Carolina, is you've had these chances and you haven't been able to take advantage, or when you do take advantage in league play, you have these non-conference losses weighing you down. And I think that's been the frustrating part. They haven't had truly bad non-con losses like they have had in years past, but they just haven't had the success that they've had in the league. You take the league seasons from 19 and 20 and put it on this year's team, and you're having a completely different conversation. But at this point, it's just not that right now. And South Carolina just needs to find ways to win, because if they don't, then they'll be staring at another year of not making the NCAA, or potentially not even the NIT tournament.
Shout out to Ricky, who is out in Tucson, Arizona. He says he's been watching every episode since day one. Ricky, we appreciate the support, man. Glad you're enjoying it. We're about to get out of here, but Collyn, I got one final question for you, man. I'm going to put you on the spot. This doesn't involve sports. It involves food.
Jeez.
So here we go. All right. He doesn't know what to expect. It's not hard.
I know how bad my food takes are, and I know, like, wife will at some point listen to this if she's not already, and I'm gonna get an earful later on because she's gonna yell at me for my bad food takes.
Well, she's probably gonna also yell at you about how bad my graphics are. So we're both gonna get yelled at.
Yeah,
We're at speaking of food,
yeah.
Cantina, which are you in on Cantina?
I'm in on Cantina. It's good.
There
It's
was
not.
hesitation there, Colin. Anyway,
It's
we're
not
not
my
going there.
favorite. It's not my favorite taco place in Colombia.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
good. It's really good.
And Colin's wife came up to me and was like, "Hey, who does your graphics on GC Live?" And I'm like, "Most of the time I do." She's like, "Yeah, they suck." That wasn't her exact words, but
That's the gist of it. She's much nicer than.
Yeah, but that was what she meant.
Yeah,
That was what she meant in a
Yeah.
very nice, polite way. That is what she meant. But sorry, Michaela, we love you. But okay, so everybody has to go check out our Garnet Trust exclusive with Devani Reed. And my question for you is, so Devani Reed, he comes into South Carolina, right, from Detroit. When he took his official visit, he had never been to Columbia, never been to South Carolina before. So he's experiencing Columbia for the first time. And one of his favorite things about South Carolina, he's like, man, I keep finding all these good food places. And so, hey, yay on you, Columbia. Sometimes people in this state like to hate on Columbia's food options compared to maybe Charleston or Greenville. But we're coming up in the world, I feel like, a little bit.
Underrated.
Yeah, now in Detroit, they don't have Bojangles, apparently. So fast food wise, and this was not an NIL deal, he said Bojangles right now is his jam. He also said Backstreets, the nachos at Backstreets. So, Colin, for Devani / anyone else coming to Columbia for the first time ever, where are you sending them? So what needs to be on Devani Reed's list?
All right. So I'll even do it like this. We're gonna have like some interesting way to
categories.
So let's say you come in on a Friday, dinner Friday night is Rockaway's.
Okay.
Okay. Dinner Friday night, you have a beer and a pimento cheeseburger at Rockaway's. Breakfast Saturday morning, cinnamon roll deli.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in on that. I'm in.
And then let's say there's no sporting event, so you have 3 meals on Saturday, and then you're going to brunch on Sunday. Saturday afternoon for lunch, I'm going Duke's Pad Thai. We've discovered it of late, and it's become one of my favorite like go-to spots there. Then I'm going Saturday for dinner. You're going probably Palmetto Pig if you're going to do like a barbecue dinner. Like in Columbia, you have to do barbecue at some point. So you get some barbecue, and then Sunday, as you're leaving town, getting ready to go back, I don't know that many good brunch spots. Halls has a pretty good brunch. I would say go to Halls and enjoy a brunch at Halls.
I can't hate on it too much, Colin.
No, it's a pretty fine.
Based on our previous disagreements about food, we're actually we're pretty. Now I would maybe just. So I'm going cinnamon roll deli for my Sunday brunch, I think.
Okay.
Then you could do Palmetto Pig for Saturday lunch.
Right.
And then you could hit Halls for that Saturday night steak.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not bad.
I'd hit there, maybe some Market on Main.
I feel like you have to go to the Wig at some point too. I'm a big Wig guy.
Yeah, I'm big on Tombo Grill Burger. Maybe Kaminsky's for dessert. But yeah, Devani, he's liking what he's seen so far. But I'm kind of trying to tell him, I'm like, you got some other places to try as well. By the way, we're gonna get out of here, but there's a place near or on, I'm not sure, Percival Road, over near Garner's Ferry. Tacos Nayari.
All right.
Everybody go try it.
Publico is also fantastic. I forgot to include Publico in that mix.
It's an underrated one. I don't go there.
Detroit I had one of the most unusually amazing food experiences I've ever had in Detroit, Michigan. So my family went up for a Red Wings game, the final year at Joe Louis Arena. and I'm looking for the place of the name of the place now, but it was a chili dog place. And it's like this world famous chili dog place. And we go and they open, they're only closed for like 2 hours a day. Like they close at like 4, they close at like 6 a.m. and they open back up at like 8 a.m. So
Yeah, the chili dogs at 8 a.m.
I'm getting there. So the Red Wing game was at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were like, we don't want to wait because they close. Like the way it worked was we didn't want to have to wait. So we went to this chili dog place at like 10 in the morning. And the line was like wrapped around. Like it was one of those where like you had to wait to get to a table at 10 in the morning for all these chili dogs. There was this like old Greek man running the joint. He sits us down at this table. There's like 7 or 8 of us next to an ice machine with a panel off the side of the ice machine with exposed wires down the side of it. And we order, he takes our order, does not write a single word of it down. And by the end of it, he just keeps bringing out food until we tell him to stop. Like he did not remember our order, and he just kept bringing chili dogs and like orders of fries out. And it was some of the best food I've ever had in my entire life. Chili dogs at like 10 in the morning in Detroit, Michigan. So Devani, coming from a very an expertise in culinary establishments there.
Maybe he's been there. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm sure
I'll effort that for you and find out. But we're going to send Devani our suggestions so that he can get a better feel of the Columbia food scene, I guess would be the good word for it. But Columbia folks, that should make you feel good. People like to hate on Columbia sometimes, say we don't have as much as Charleston, but we're on the come up. Yeah. We're on the come up. All right. That's all we got. We're at an hour. We could talk about food for hours. So we're going to get out of here. Collyn, appreciate the time as always, man. Everybody go sign up for GamecockCentral.com. It is only $1 for a year right now. That deal will be going away, I imagine, very soon. So go check it out. GamecockCentral.com. 1 year, $1. No strings attached. Promise you won't find a better deal in sports media anywhere. For Collyn, I'm Wes. We'll see you later.